My name is Rick Tischaefer. I'm the president of the North Dakota Fur Hunters and Trappers Association. Today we're going to build a cubby, a wooden cubby for a body grip and trap. We're going to take a look at our regulations first just to make sure that what we're building is going to be correct for what we're intending our trapping area to be. This is going to be private property or basically all other lands in North Dakota. This particular part of the regulation deals specifically with recesses and cubbies and enclosures that are used in other parts of the state outside of the state wildlife management areas, okay? State wildlife management areas have their own particular regulations for the size of the cubbies and the recess and the types of traps that you can use. What we're doing today is we're going to take a 7-inch body grip and trap, which is commonly known as a 220 body grip and trap. 7-inch window. We're going to build an enclosure for it, and our intent is using this is on private property and could be considered all other lands in North Dakota. So the regulations require specific measurements for those traps that are 8 inches or larger. In this case, we're using a 7-inch trap, so our recesses and the size of the enclosure, we have a little bit of wiggle room there and kind of do what we want and make sure that we're still legal and that we're offering the protections of an enclosure with this type of trap. You know, ideally, we don't want any non-target catches, but enclosures and recesses are built with these types of traps to make sure they're reduce the potential for catching a non-target animal, like a dog, for instance. What we're going to do is this particular enclosure, again, we're using a 7-inch trap, but we're going to make it a double-ended cubby. So it's going to have 2 sides and a top. What that does for you is that there's no bottom. Basically, the animal that's using the enclosure doesn't have to step on wood or some unfamiliar surface while they're working in to get your bait. So we do 2 sides and a top, and then this one's going to be double-ended. So what does that mean? It's that there's a body grip and trap on each end of it. Some cubbies have just a single opening, and the back end is either wire mesh or something that blocks entrance from that other opposite direction. So the premise behind a double-ended is like you're going to that set location to check a trap, why not check 2 of them? All right, and many, many, many times you'll find that because of the nature of raccoons and skunks and things like that, they travel together. So as long as you're checking that trap, that set location, you might as well be checking 2 traps, and there's always that potential for catching 2 animals with that visit. What we've done is we've gotten 1x10 boards. We've measured them out 28 inches long. They're cut at 28 inches. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut a 4-inch recess into each end. All right, and what that'll do is that trap will be recessed inside the enclosure. 4 inches is a good channel to cut. The trap is back recessed in there in the cubby, but it also provides some stability to that trap. Okay, so you want to reduce the potential for that trap moving or wiggling or falling over actually as that animal approaches or intends to try to get your bait that's inside the enclosure. We're going to measure out. If we want a 4-inch channel because of the metal that creates the springs of the trap, what we're going to have to do is measure back 5 inches. All right, you have to accommodate that metal. What we'll do on our sides, measure back 5 inches. On both ends. Split the difference at, should be 4 5/8. Okay, 4 5/8. All right, so that's where I'm going to drill my hole. It's a 3/4 inch hole. You don't want to use anything larger than that because the trap, it'll be too loose. You want a nice friction fit as that trap, the springs of the trap go sliding into that channel that you're making. So we keep it at 3/4 inch, and what I'll do is go ahead and measured one board, and I will measure the other. real quick and do them both. 5 inches because we want a 4-inch recess, and 4 5/8 down. That splits the difference, top to bottom. Okay, we've got our 2 sides and our holes drilled. And what we'll do now is mark our channels to be cut. Do the same thing on the opposite end. Just as a little interjection about safety, you want to make sure that you're familiar with the tools that you're using so you don't cause harm or injury to yourself or others. If they're quite noisy, you may want to wear ear protection and always have safety glasses on so you don't injure your eyes by anything that may come up while you're cutting. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut these channels out, all 4 of them. Okay, we've completed our channels. Now we can start assembling our cubby. Serve as our top. And we got the nailer hooked up. Okay, we're using a brad nailer to secure the sides to the top. You can use screws if you'd like, drywall screws to hold the pieces together, but I would suggest pre-drilling those holes so the pine doesn't split open on you or split out. So pre-drill the holes if you're using screws, and I'm just using a brad nailer with 2 1/4 inch nails or 2 1/4 inch brads. It goes kind of fast using a brad nailer. And actually, once the cubby's complete, it's a pretty solid unit. Get things lined up and flush. Make sure we're lined up. Our brads are going into the top part the way they should. Okay, all good. Do the same thing with the other side. Line it up so it's flush. Check out, yeah, brads are going in well. Okay. The sides are a little bit flimsy this way, so what we're going to do is add a stiffener that goes in the center of the cubby. And what we'll also do is we'll place a couple screws through here so that they stick out above the stiffener, and we can use those as bait holders. All right. So what we do is we'll measure We have 28-inch sides, so we need to be 14 inches for the center. 14 and 14. Okay. And just to show you from that side. Okay. Oh, that come out. Cool thing about the brads is that if you do come out, just simply snip them off. Do the same thing on the other side. All right, get the stiffener in place, get her where it should be. So that firmed everything up quite well. Nice and solid. As long as we got it out, sitting on its top, we're going to go ahead and add a couple of drywall screws straight through the stiffener so that the screw part is exposed, and that works as your bait holder. Regardless of what it is, if you're just going to impale a can of cat food or a pigeon carcass or whatever the case may be, whatever it is for bait, you can impale it right on the screw, and that keeps the smaller animals and critters from carrying your bait away. All right, so just like so. It's our finished cubby. What you want to do with these natural wood cubbies is paint them so they last longer. They're out in the weather 24 hours a day kind of a thing, so in some pretty nasty weather in the fall and early winter, or in the spring if you use them in the spring. So you want to paint them, give them a good shot of some heavy duty paint. Don't expect to paint your cubby and then take it out 2 days later and use it. You want to make sure that you plan ahead a little bit, paint them up, give them time to dry properly and air out so that the petroleum based or the smell of the paint doesn't linger with any part of the cubby. So body grip and traps that are used in these types of cubbies, you can set a railroad tie plate on top. You can set a cinder block, a heavy piece of iron on top of it to keep the cubby in place and to anchor your traps to. If you want to use re-rod stakes, you're working when the ground is not quite frozen yet, you can drill a hole, take your 3/4 inch drill a hole through the top, and you can place your re-rod stakes straight down through the top to hold this in place, and of course wire or fasten your traps to that stake. So I hope this was informative to you. If you have any questions, please let us know. Thanks for watching, and good luck out on the trap line.